Do you find yourself constantly losing really close games, not able to kind of push past the finish line? Are you having trouble in matchups that you think you should be winning, but you just can't seem to find a way? What's up, guys? KTOD Matty here, hitting you with some updates to your SWU Playbook, a couple plays that I use, common situations that you can employ these plays so that you can be pushing your skill to the next level, getting more wins, finding creative ways to win games, all coming up. Booyah. All right, so the plays that I'm talking about are the early claim, when to trick your opponent into thinking you're going to claim and sneaking out another, kind of greedy attack, if you will, to let you claim so that the next turn you can fire off something really powerful and kind of blow them out. The other play that I'm going to talk about is the sandbag. This is kind of like the opposite of the early claim, where you take a lot of small actions, and you can even use passing early in the action phase to get your opponent to think you're kind of done doing what you're doing. At which point they claim, and you can surprise them with either something smuggled or cheap out of your hand that they did not expect, and really blow them out kind of after the fact. So it's a play that you don't care about initiative. You really are just kind of getting them to claim early, so that way they can not get the most out of their turn. The other play, checking my notes here. The other play is the hostage situation. A lot of people have talked about this, I believe, in a recent-ish video. I don't know when this is going to drop, but in a recent-ish video, the Blue Han Masterclass, they talk about Poe being someone who can keep leaders hostage. So the hostage situation is where you have the ability to prevent your opponent from deploying their leader because they'll just die. Common early in the game thing was keeping up 4 resources for a takedown for an Iden or a Sabine, right? The hostage situation is really important because leaders are like the most powerful thing in the game, and it's a free unit you can deploy, and some of them are really strong. So if you can kind of hold that hostage, you can get a huge leg up on your opponent. So those are the 3 plays I'm going to talk about. I'll go a little more in depth. I'll show you how I kind of do them and give you some, real game scenarios. And I think once you've kind of mastered these 3 plays, you're going to see a big rise in your gameplay level. The early claim. That was terrible. Okay, the early claim. Let's talk about the early claim for a second. Why is this an important play? Well, sometimes you are about to hit a very pivotal turn. Common pivotal turn, it's easy to identify, is the 7 resource turn. Why? Vader's come out that turn. Luke's come out that turn. Hey, Mace is seeing some uptick. There are certain turns in the game where powerful things happen. 8 resources, that's when you see super laser blast. 9 resources, crate dragon, etc., etc. There are these certain turns where big things happen, right? So you're going to want generally initiative on that turn. Say you are the control deck and you want to make sure you don't get hit before you super laser blast, you're going to want initiative for your 8th resource turn, right? If it's a slugfest and you guys are kind of running out of cards and you're coming up on the crate dragon turn, you probably want to play your crate dragon first, so that way they take damage and they get all messed up. Okay, so the early claim, how does this manifest in a game? In a back and forth game, there's units on the board. Maybe you have the ability to take out a unit and see what your opponent's going to do. There's back and forth kind of going on in the action phase. There are times where you can actually forego, say, like an attack, right? Your opponent, you have like a K2 or even, anything with like 3 or 4 power, maybe even 5 power that they expect you to get in there and attack with. I've even not attacked with like a Luke and just claimed. There's times where you have to do that. They're easier to identify when you'll win or lose with that play, but if you're foregoing a strong play, 5, 6 damage on the base, or you're claiming with open resources and cards in hand, and what's happening is they're expecting you to do something because of who would just not attack for 6 or who would just not use all their resources. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna claim and do something big. A play that is kind of more common right now in the context of, mid-August 2024 metagame and the popularity of Blue Han is Pillage, right? Pillage is such a great card. There are times where you're going to want to do some math on your opponent's hand size and claim, because the next turn after they resource, and they're going to have to resource because, let's use the 7 resource turn again. They're going to have to resource and they're going to have 2 cards in hand. You claimed, you pillaged, now you just blew out their, presumably their biggest turn. And there's plenty of times that you can do that. So the early claim is such a powerful thing when you can identify those big turns where you don't need the extra damage. You just really want to blow them out. And that's a big one. The pillage one, your crate dragons, etc. A cool one to do is like claim the turn they think they're going to super laser blast, get rid of their hand, or you can tech DJ is a big thing, right? Where it's like, I stole your resource, now you don't have 8, now you can't pout flip, now you can't super laser blast, whatever. So you kind of entice your opponent, you're kind of have this back and forth, you forego something that's obvious value just to get the initiative on the big turn. So yes, you forego 5-6 points, or you forego a little bit of board control, but you get so far ahead on that first claim that it's smooth sailing after that. So that's the early claim play. You'll know it when you see it, now that you've heard about it, but you got to practice it. Sometimes you're going to be like, oh, I didn't have to early claim there, or whatever, and you're going to start to identify that people are doing this to you, which leads to the next one, and I'm going to take a break before I talk about it. But the next one is the sandbag. This is kind of when you get your opponent to early claim, and then you do some cool stuff. So it's kind of like a counter. Booyah. All right, so the sandbag. Pretend I have a bag of sand. I was gonna prop this one, but I don't have anything. Okay, so the sandbag, the time where you kind of, some people say dirtle. I think that word kind of stinks. I'm sandbagging. I'm a sandbagging son of a gun. But I'm using that term to mean I'm taking a lot of small actions, right? Sometimes early in the phase you can like pass, right? Because your opponent's gonna. There's very few times your opponent is gonna claim if you like immediately pass. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to run them out of actions. And Grand Inquisitor is like the best version of someone who tries to do this. Takes small actions so he can play his guy, untap, attack, kind of play by himself. Or some people call that like playing solitaire. And, I think as the game evolves, there'll probably be more examples of that. But the sandbag play is kind of that. But what you're doing is you're setting up a big blowout. And so one thing we kind of talked about in the last iteration, and when I was talking about the early claim is, and we're going to go back to that 7 resource coming into 8, right? Your opponent has 1 card in hand. They're looking to super laser blast. You can like take a bunch of small actions, you have units out, you can attack, you can play cheap things. Instead of kind of curving out, maybe you have a couple cards in hand, you want to like play 2 things instead of 1. And then get them to early claim, lose some value on their turn, and you can like force throw the last card in their hand or something like that. So this is kind of a tricky one. Another scenario that kind of comes up a lot is somebody will claim kind of with like lethal on board, thinking they have it. And there are ways to kind of jockey your turn and maybe like not deal with their threat right away and almost feign that you don't have it. And then end of the turn, you fell the dragon or something like that. So they're worried about you early claiming them. You kind of look like you don't have the way to deal with their threat. They claim, and you just get them. Because if they pass and you claim, you can draw more cards and maybe deal with what they have going on. So there's kind of ways to sandbag them in that way, kind of play a psychological game. So the sandbag, it's when you can identify that you can take extra actions. Another good one is smuggle. Sorry, I just thought of this. Another good one is smuggle, like 7 resources. You have tech. You can sneak out tech and then do like, the force throw play. So they think you have nothing. Or you play tech. They claim because they want to kill it right away. And then you like force throw their last card out of the hand or stuff like that. So there are ways between smuggle, cheap actions, things like that, to really take your time in the turn, put them up to a position where they think that having first action matters. And so they forego some of that value, because of the reasons we talked about in the other turn. But then you blow them out. So like they're jockeying for that pillage, but you force throw it out of their hand or whatever. You know what I mean? So you can also identify those like, oh, I have a way to deal with this thing, but I'm gonna wait until late in the action phase where they've claimed because they either think I don't have it or they have to claim so they you know get the initiative because they need initiative, and then you deal with it. So there's ways to maneuver about that. Sometimes you just got to deal with the thing. You can't always get cute, right? And so these aren't things that you do all the time, but there are ways that you can get creative to steal games, and that's the whole point of this video. So the sandbag is a sneaky one, and if you learn to use it well, you're going to steal some games. All right, so the last play I'm going to talk about is the hostage situation. And this one is, I think by now is pretty well known, but it's good to talk about. Still a lot of new people come to the game. And there's definitely nuances to the hostage situation. And let's kind of extrapolate it. What do I mean by the nuances of the hostage situation? Well, early in the meta, if you held up 4 resources and your opponent had, Sabine, they got all worried. And they were like, oh man, they're just going to kill my Sabine. What do I do? And then people started to find out, oh, we can play General Dodonna. We can play just K2. And if they pass again, we claim and we don't even deploy our leader and we just keep smacking them in the face. So you have to figure out if you try to get too cute with the hostage situation, someone's just going to claim on you and make you look silly. It actually happened to me at Gen Con. I was playing Frank's wife, Courtney, and I tried to get a little cute and pass, and she just claimed and like time walked me, and I got completely blown out there. Kudos to her. That was a sick play. But when you do it right, you can develop your board and set them behind, especially if your leader deploys around the same time as them, and so they can never really feel like they have footing. One way that we did that a lot in set 1 was with Chirrut. Chirrut would come out, you would put a lightsaber on him, cost 3. You had some other resources. You could then drop an A-Wing or drop a Sabine unit, stuff like that to keep kind of developing your board while you hold them hostage. They pass, you claim, and you kind of keep going from there. So it's one where you start to take control of the board, and then you kind of push that. You have to be careful because, say you're trying to do this against like a deck with like Vader or something or Super Laser Blast, they can easily just kind of, oh, you didn't get the most value out of when you were ahead. Now I'm going to catch up. A really good card that does this right now is Poe. Poe can pretty much kill every single leader because he attacks for 8 if you discard a card. So in Blue Han and the boys in the masterclass, Loopy's masterclass on late night, go check that out. Talk about it. How Poe is just so good at that play. There's other good ways to do it, like holding up 7 for a Maul or Vader with Death Trooper and Kira. But again, if you just play the pass game at 7 resources, you can time walk yourself. So you gotta kind of know the nuance there. The best way to do it, in my opinion, is to develop the board while you're holding them hostage and getting the cheeky damage, but make sure that they never feel like they can get in the game. And when you pair that with like discard or something, you can really set them behind. So that's a hostage situation. You'll know it when you see it because you've heard about it now. It's my new phrase. I like how it sounds. But yeah, try it out in your games. See where we're talking about. Go watch that masterclass. See what they talk about with it. But as you play, you'll kind of identify when you can do that and when people can do that to you. All right, so that's 3 plays that you can add to your SWU playbook to start stealing games, winning more games, and just generally upping your game. I think that those are a mix of kind of common ones that people know, but also adding the layers to it. You can always go back and watch Mike's leveled thinking video. That's another way to kind of up your game. And I think leveling, the different levels that you can be on tie into a lot of these plays. So if you haven't checked that one out, go do it. I'll link it. But yeah, let me know if you've used these plays, you try them out, tell me how they go, tell me, a scenario where they worked or kind of something you learned. That'd be super helpful for me. And as always, if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe. so I can know what's working and what you guys want to hear. All right.